Hello guys, this is Mike from programming.org. In this video, I'm going to start getting into the Blade syntax, and the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to create a master page. And what that will do will create a template, and we'll be able to create this HTML layout just one time, and we don't have to redo it for every single page we do. So think of every time that maybe we want to pull in Bootstrap, we have to do that on every single page that we do. And imagine creating, 15, 20 pages. That's going to get kind of cumbersome. And if we have to change one thing, we're going to have to go change it in all of our files. So let's try to follow that dry principle, so don't repeat yourself. So how can we do that? Well, we're going to do what is considered creating a master layout page. So what we're going to do is we're going to go into our views folder, and we're going to create a new folder called layouts. We're going to call this layouts, and inside of layouts I want to create a master page. So let's say new file master.blade.php, and inside of here is where I'm going to give the main HTML layout that I want. I'm going to use Bootstrap for these tutorials just because I don't want to have to focus on making the pages look too pretty with CSS, because that'll take away the focus from the Laravel part of this. So I'm just going to add Bootstrap real quick. I have a little snippet to add it in as fast as possible, so I just have a CDN. We also have Bootstrap Sass inside of our assets folder that we'll be able to use with Gulp, and we'll get into that later down the road. But for now, I'm just going to use a CDN so we can style this up a little bit. So I'm going to add a container for now. And inside of here, you want to know how can we pass in data into this master layout for every page. Well, let's go back to this contact page. Let's get rid of all this stuff right here. And we're going to keep contact page. But how can we pass that into our master blade.php? Well, it's very easy. We're going to use the blade syntax to extend the master page like this. At extends, and inside of here we need to write the file that we're extending. So that's in layout/master. And the standard way of doing this that most people will use is the object-oriented way, which is like that with a dot. So layouts.master, and that's what you're going to see online if you look around for other resources, just so you don't get confused. But what this means is we're extending from the layouts folder our master page. And then we still need to pass in this contact page text right here into master's page. So how are we going to do that? Well, we want to yield this content. So in our master page, let's just say yield, and inside of our parentheses we can just say content. You can call it whatever you want. It's primarily called content. You can change it, and we can have as many yields as you need. And inside of here, what we're going to do now is we're going to put this contact page in a section, at section, and we're going to call that section content. And then we need to end that section. And there's two ways to do that. We can either say end section, or we can say stop. So either one of those is fine. So we're going to say end section. Let's save that. That's already saved. Now let's go back to Google Chrome and see if that works. Let's go to our contact page. And we have it working. And notice that it's tabbed over a little bit because it's wrapped in our Bootstrap container. So let's go back to Sublime Text and go over some of the other Blade syntax. So like before, I'm going to pass in some type of variable to pass to our view. So let's just call this data, and I'll just say some random data. And to show you how Blade escapes data, I'm going to pass in a script tag real quick. Script and an alert. And let's see how this deals with this. So let's compact this. Compact data. Alright, let's go back to our view, and let's throw out our Blade curly brackets and pass in data. I'll get rid of contact page for now. We'll come back and actually build that up. And go back to our browser. And notice that it escapes everything. So it doesn't literally run the JavaScript code that I've put in here. So that is very safe. It's running HTML entities method behind the scenes. Let's see the blade tags that we can use that doesn't escape data. So let's go back here and notice that this has two curly braces. Well, what if we do this? Let's do curly brace and two exclamation points. Alright, this is not going to escape the data. This is going to run whatever is inside. Save that, and let's go back, and it says you've been hacked. So that's not good. We need to be very careful of when we use this, and I don't use that very often at all unless I absolutely need to. So just use this. Don't worry about using the other thing for now. I know that you're thinking that Laravel, you may have noticed, can run with some JavaScript libraries, and some of these libraries, such as Angular, also uses these double curly brackets. So how can we differentiate these in our view if we're going to be using Angular? So anytime that you use Angular or any other JavaScript library that also uses these, to show Laravel that this is JavaScript, just write it like that with an @ symbol in front, and it won't be rendered by the Blade's engine. And some other convenient things that Blade gives us are some shortcuts to deal with if statements and for loops, for each loops, and a couple other cool things. So let me get to that real quick. Let's go back here, and I'm going to set data. I'm just going to make this a boolean, and I'm going to say true, save, and let's pass that through again. And let's come back here, and I'm going to say @if, and I'm just going to say data. So if that's true, which it is, let's say true. Else, we're going to just print out false. We also need to end the if statement, so let's just say @end if. Alright, save that, and let's go back and run it. And we get true. So let's go set this to false, and we should get false. Cool, so we got false. So there's a little cool shorthand for the if statement using Blade syntax. What else can we use? Another cool thing that I've never seen before is something called the unless statement. So I'm going to say unless, and we're going to put in some type of value in here, and I'm just going to use an arbitrary value unless 1 is equivalent to 2, which isn't true, obviously. We're going to say this isn't true. Alright, so the logic behind this is it's pretty much a reverse if statement, if you want to think of it that way. But let's run that in the browser and see if that prints out. And it does. So you can go to the Laravel documentation to read a little bit more about that. And another thing we can use is the for loop and the for each loop. And I'm going to go over the for each loop in this example. So I'm going to go back to my pages controller, and I'm going to pass in a small array. So let's create an array real quick. It's going to say people equals, and let's give it, and let's pass that in to our compact method, pass that in to our contact blade. So let's run our for each. So the way we're going to write that is @for each. So first thing we're going to pass in is our array, and I'm going to say people as person, and let's just echo out person. And then we got to end that for each. So end for each. Save that, go back to your browser, and we got all of the names. So that's pretty cool. That's going to come in very handy in a lot of situations. Most of the time, we're going to be getting all this information from a database. So what if the database doesn't even have any data at the time? So how can we get around that? let's make another one. We're going to say for else people as person, and we're going to print out person for each one. But let's say at empty, and if that's the case, we're going to say no one in list. And make sure you change this to end for else. Save that. And hopefully it realizes nobody's in this people array. I may have to just delete this entirely. But let's go back here and run it, and it says no one in list. So that's pretty cool. We can check if any data is being passed back from the database. That's probably going to be the end of this Blade introduction. I'm going to probably come across some other Blade things that I didn't talk about here, but I'll explain them as we get along further and further. In the next tutorial, I'm going to set up a simple database where we can actually start putting in blog information and actually start creating our website. So